Hey, this is John Ahman, and I want to take you for a walk that I normally do. We're all working together to build a community that Dr. King would be proud to call home. You know, imagine like what that would look like. I often think to myself, what would Dr. King might think as he walked the streets on the West Side? What he might think as he left his own home and just walked down the street? Let's begin at 234 Sunset. Take a look at this red brick home with the white garage doors. Dr. King and his wife, Coretta, bought this home in 1965. Today, if Dr. King and Scott King were still with us, they'd be in their 90s. Maybe they'd be on their front porch. I'm certain they would be grieving the recent loss of C.T. Vivian and John Lewis, their friends and colleagues. And I learned in the Beloved Benefit from Dr. King's daughter, Bernice, that Dr. King actually bought at 234 Sunset to make a point, because he could have lived in one of the neighborhoods further west that was more affluent, but he bought in Vine City because he wanted to draw attention to some slum conditions that were still existing in Vine City. And so imagine he's taking this walk right now. He's looking left, he's looking right. You know, what would he be saying? What would he be thinking? This is what he would be seeing. This is the west side of Atlanta as we head south toward the Atlanta Youth Center campuses. This is the 200 Sunset, or multifamily, right next to the Neighborhood Union Health Center. You know, we're looking south on Sunset now as we're walking down Sunset. And to the right, Dr. King would look to his right and he would see the Neighborhood Union Health Center. He would see it closed. And my house is across the street from the Neighborhood Union Health Center. It's the one in green. And you can still see, now as you're looking, and Dr. King would be seeing this if he were to walk down the street from his home, the memorial where the two youth were shot and killed.
We're continuing to follow breaking news out of Northwest Atlanta. 4 people shot. 2 of the young men were killed. Police responding to a person shot call around 2:30 this morning along Sunset Avenue. And
for me, and I'm sure it would be for him, it's a hard moment to see this. And actually, recently I saw Tom Hawk, who was Dr. King's driver, when he drove by, asked him what Dr. King might do. And he said, well, he would first pray. He would pray for those we have lost in violence. So let's take a moment to reflect and pause. So many lives have been lost recently, senselessly, to violence and to COVID-19. And it's harder, I know it's hard for all of us, that in our community so many heroes live. Heroes working together so that this West Side Atlanta, this country, this world would be better. And I think Dr. King would come out of prayer and say, let's get back to work. We must all get back to work. Now, this slide is heroes from the West Side, 10 heroes. This is one of our most popular slides we've shown at the summit. And they all, in some form or another, fought for justice. And before we jump back in this, I want to remind you, we have a great plan, the Westside Land Use Framework Plan. Here's a look. And one of the things that came out of this, we hear that, you know, kind of the commandments for Westside redevelopment, drawn from all the community input. And also, one of the things really important to the community was to honor and lift up the history, to preserve the history, and to preserve the homes and other places that the heroes lived. Many of these heroes are named in the book, and you can read their bios and read about their input, both men and women. But let's get back on the road. Next to 234 Sunset is Dr. King. Old home is 220 Sunset. And thanks to cooperation from the King Center, Westside Future Fund was able to buy that home, and we're now in the process of renovating it so we could be leasing it out to hopefully graduate students and young professors at AUC centers, maybe inspired by the legacy of who lived next door. This is where the King Center was started. Just down the road, if Dr. King were to kind of keep on walking down Sunset, he would see Gracetown Hamilton's home, which is across from the Herndon Mansion. But she was the first American woman elected to the Georgia General Assembly and executive director of the Atlanta Urban League. And now you can see I'm facing the Herndon Mansion. Alfonso Herndon was Atlanta's first black millionaire who founded Atlanta Life. And you can see he would have been looking out at the time on the downtown. I often imagine he must have felt so much pride to do what he did, despite everything being designed against him. You see the new YMCA, which is terrific. This new YMCA is now serving the Hollis Innovation Academy by doing that early learning near the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Now as we continue to walk, you'll see the Phyllis Wheatley building owned by the YWCA. We're now walking west on MLK Drive. You know, as Dr. King was walking, he would see more. This is Gaines Hall. It was built in 1869 as North Hall, one of Atlanta University's first building that was nearly lost to a fire in 2015.
This is video from 2015 showing flames on the roof of the old Gaines Hall, which was also vacant.
Recently, thanks to cooperation between the city and the leadership of the mayor and Eloisa with Invest Atlanta and others, that this is now being fixed up and under renovation with the fences up. But back to one of the heroes in those pictures was W.E. Du Bois, who had the first PhD from Harvard as an African-American. First African-American to earn his doctorate at Harvard and one of the founders of the NAACP in 1909. And so I often think that we really stand on top of a mountain, and the heroes had built so much that we can now stand on as we launch forward in our work. That completes our tour for now as we all lean in to make the Westside truly a place Dr. King will be proud to call home. And please go to our website, westsidefuturefund.org, and get engaged with us. Watch our Transform Westside Summits, volunteer to help us deliver food, and also donate. We need to raise funds to keep people in their homes during this COVID emergency, deliver food and shelter. So please help us make this place a better place to live, work, and play.